Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Thanksgiving's coming. I'm doing holiday baking, and for me, that means cheesecake and pies. This is my New York style cheesecake, and I make it with no sugar added using Splenda. The exact same recipe works with sugar if you prefer. Here are the ingredients. Please pause, write them down, and hey, we really love it when you give us a thumbs up. And please subscribe. Let's get cooking. We're starting with the graham cracker crust, and sorry, you have to make it. You can't buy a prepackaged one because it's not big enough. This is going to be a big cheesecake. So I'm using 2 packs. That may give me a little over the 1.25 cups. Usually it takes 10 to 12 to make a cup of crumbs, and there's only 8 in each of these packs. So I think I figured it fairly close. We'll see. So just drop them into your food processor, or you can put them in a plastic bag and roll them with a rolling pin. Just so much easier with a food processor. So we'll get them all in there. It's pretty full. Then I'll add my Splenda. You can add sugar, or you can add nothing. Graham crackers are already a little bit sweet. Then we'll just close it up, and I'm going to pulse this pretty fast until I get the crumbs all beat up into a really fine crumb. That's not enough. Let's do it some more. And that's fine enough. You don't want any chunks left. So now we're going to add our butter. And I didn't get my camera high enough. I'm just pouring the butter through the little opening in the top as I blend it, and I just want to get the butter distributed throughout. The amount of butter you use is going to vary based on the crackers. I may have a few too many crackers in here. Now we're going to transfer these crumbs to a springform pan, and I actually have a 9-inch square springform. The recipe calls for a 10-inch round springform. And volume-wise, that's pretty close. But this is why you can't buy a prepared crust. They're just too small. They only come in 9-inch. And you really, really want a springform pan. If you don't have one, they don't cost much. But for a cheesecake, it's the best. Now, I'm going to mash these down, try to get them densely packed. And I use a jar first, and then I'll use my hands to shape it. And this is a pretty thick crust. Lots of people would rather have just a little bit on the bottom. That's fine. Just cut your recipe in half and you'll have enough. So now I've finished shaping it in the pan with my hands. And it needs to come up the sides, or this recipe calls for it to come up the sides about a 1/2 inch. And I'm really giving it some pressure there so that it'll stick to the sides. Again, it's just fine with just a few crumbs on the bottom, and that really cuts the carbs down. So in the fridge, let the butter harden while I make the cheesecake. I've assembled all my ingredients, and yes, this is an expensive cheesecake to make. I've got 5 eggs plus 2 egg yolks, and I've saved the whites over here. I'm going to use them for something else. 2.5 pounds of cream cheese. My Splenda, some vanilla, some flour, and some heavy whipping cream. And just a note of caution here as I put this in my mixing bowl. It is important that you do this in the right order. If you change the steps, you can end up with something that looks like plastic. So that was all 5 packs of the softened cream cheese, and now I'm adding the Splenda. And as I said, you can use sugar. It works just the same. And we're going to beat this together really well. And I'm going to beat this once it gets softened up and the chunks are out. I'm going to beat this at a high speed because I want it to be very, very creamy. So we're going to turn the speed up a little bit here. And you will have to scrape the sides and push it down several times until the cream cheese sort of liquefies. It was softened, but it needs to get very liquid. Then I'm going to add my little bit of flour, just incorporate it in kind of slowly. And I'll have to scrape the sides again. My old KitchenAid is still chugging. I think I might be getting a new one for Christmas. We'll keep our fingers crossed. This one's very old. I don't even know how old it is because I got it secondhand. So we're going to scrape it down. And as I said, you'll have to do that several times. This is very thick. So the eggs are the next step. And I'm going to break them up a little bit here. Beat them lightly. And it's very important with a cheesecake that you not overbeat it once the eggs are added. So I'm going to do some beating up here so they incorporate it a little more quickly. And that's a lot of eggs. So I'm adding the eggs and I'll add the vanilla now. And once the eggs are in, I only beat it enough to incorporate the eggs and no more. When you don't see any more yellow, you've done it enough. And I will scrape it down a couple times, but I'm using the very lowest speed, and I'm using the paddle. If you don't have a paddle and all you have is the whip, that's fine. I just think the paddle incorporates it a little more gently. So I'm scraping it down one more time. I just want to make sure I get all of the cream cheese and everything mixed together well. You know, it's so thick that you have to do this a couple of times. But I'm still being careful not to overbeat it. I did it about 10 seconds, scraped it down. And I'm probably going to do this about another 10-15 seconds, and that should be enough. And once the eggs are fully incorporated, we'll add the heavy whipping cream, and we're almost done. Just incorporate that. And I'm still on my very lowest speed. Let's just blend that in a little and we'll pour it up. So into the springform pan. Now the cooking directions for this are very important and just a little persnickety. Your oven should be preheated to 475, but you only cook it at 475 for 10 minutes. Then you turn your heat down to 200 and set your timer for an hour. Once that hour has elapsed, you turn your heat off and let it sit undisturbed in the oven for an additional hour. And this prevents too much breaking. I don't know if you've cooked cheesecakes before, but if you have, you know they tend to break. So this is cooked slowly to prevent it from breaking. And this is what you have. It should be slightly firm to the touch. I'm going to let it sit here an additional hour. And then I'm going to refrigerate it. And it should chill at least 2 to 3 hours before you do anything else. So this is Thanksgiving morning. I let it chill overnight. And you just want to run a knife around to loosen the graham cracker crust from the sides. I love using a springform pan, and I just serve it right in the pan base. When I have a round springform pan, I just put the bottom of it into a cake plate. This one has a nice outside tray, so we're just going to serve it like this. Except we're going to dress it up a little. I brushed some of the crumbs off to the top because you always have some. And I have here a sugar-free chocolate sauce that I made with Splenda. And I'll put a link later to the recipe for this. My granddaughter Jessica made this. And it's very rich and creamy. And you don't have to add any sugar. You can make it with Splenda. And you can make any kind of design you want. I don't want to put too much. I don't want an icing. I just want a little on it. And swirls would be pretty. And this being a square pan, I'm going to make a little square. You see that one little break in the middle? That's not bad for a cheesecake. I really have never made one that didn't have any breaks in it. So I'm going to finish playing here with the chocolate sauce. And I have a guinea pig with me today. We're going to have my granddaughter Jessica give this a taste test. So I'm cutting her a tiny little piece because, you know, dinner's coming up. Don't want to spoil her appetite. Let me show you this. The texture of this is firm and creamy, just like a New York cheesecake. So let's see what my beautiful granddaughter thinks about this. All right. That's why Grandma cooks. We have a couple of cooks in the kitchen. Oh, she's going to let me try it. We have a couple cooks in the kitchen today, and we've been splitting duties. It makes you feel so good when folks like what you have cooked for them. This cheesecake is a little expensive to make. It's definitely a special occasion. Oops, there's Mary. She's going to try it too. But you know, when you're doing Thanksgiving and you're having the family, you want to do your very special things. And it's been a blessed day to be able to teach this recipe to my granddaughter. And to have Fred's sweet sister here. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope you try this, hope you love it, and hope to see you again tomorrow.